Right, shall we move on to another question? Do we have Tim Charles here? I can't see him. Yes, Tim Charles is here. Hurrah! Tim, have you got a microphone and have you got your question?
I do.
Excellent.
Stephen, this might be better addressed to the floor than the panel, but let me ask it. And it's, do the panel have any advice to offer about the management of credit insurers to the benefit of the business? And speaking from our experience, particularly at the beginning of the crisis, we had entire territories declined, parts of sectors, and very good businesses. And in particular, to speak to the credit insurer was often very difficult or sometimes delayed. It's a sector that is perhaps the iceberg out there. It doesn't get commented on much, and I don't know how much pressure it had exerted on it during the crisis.
No, absolutely. That's a good question, Tim. I hope someone knows the answer. But as I was alluding to, I don't regard the bankers as being the villains. It's the credit insurers who are the villains. It's the Euler Hermeses and the Atreideses out there who have been doing most damage through the recession. So, Andrew, are you man enough to comment on this sort of thing?
So you know that we know Euler Hermes? Yeah.
Do they know that we know that you know?
So it's a real toughie because we've had really sit on the fence in this one because we've had some positive experiences and we've had customers who've had some negative experiences. I suspect I know which end you fall into. So we've had deals that have our credit underwriters, they've helped us they've given us the comfort to help us physically lend money. So, but timing, I can think of 4 or 5 at the moment where it seems to be taking an age to get to the decision that we want. So they are, Euler Hermes are our colleagues and they've helped us in some cases, but actually, but in other cases they haven't. So I really am sitting on the fence because it makes it difficult for us as a bank as well. So in certain cases, so I'm really sorry. I'm really annoyed I didn't print it out because I've got a list of all the countries they don't like, the areas they do like. You know, they love pharmaceutical, but who doesn't? So and which countries they don't like airlines apparently. So and I've got all that, and I'll print it out. And what I'll do is I'll give it to you afterwards, maybe to give you some help. Yeah. But I have got it with me. It's in my room.
Nick, have you got any view on this as a corporate lawyer?
I'm aware of the problems, and I'm aware that once underwriters have formed a view, it's very difficult to get them to change it because they and their analysts are the only ones who will change their minds. So I would have thought market pressures must come to play at some stage, although they have to play against a great deal of inertia.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is mixed. Let's put it as politely as that. As I say, whilst the press were bashing the banks, the credit insurers were withdrawing credit and nobody was talking about it. As Tim said, nobody was talking about it. And that has done more damage to most SME businesses who are trying to run their businesses and buy product from their suppliers without having to pay cash on the nail for it than any bank has done. I have had negotiations with Euler Hermes with a client and Atreides with another client. And it's difficult because, of course, Euler Hermes is not acting for your client. Euler Hermes is acting for the suppliers to your client. So you're trying to get a meeting, you're trying to persuade the Euler Hermeses or the Atreideses. I keep saying Euler Hermes because more credit insurers are available, but they're the big ones. And yeah, you can get meetings and you can talk to their analysts. And what do they want to see? They want to see a strong balance sheet. Comes back to point 1. They want to see a strong balance sheet. They do not want to see a company that is having to do deals with creditors, particularly HMRC. If you've got time to pay arrangements in place, you may think this is fine. HMRC are happy. HMRC are providing with a nice cheap source of finance, no arrangement fees, nothing like that, but the trade credit insurers don't like it. And why don't they like it? Because they know that if you default, HMRC will pull the rug just like that, and you're exposed. So if there is a lesson, the lesson is the same old lesson. It's to have a strong balance sheet and to make sure that you're on top of your creditors, that they're not getting out of hand, they are being paid within term, and then these people who can help your business but can damage your business will look at you more favourably. I mean, Andrew, do you want to?
I agree. Well, I mean, as a bank, we're trying to be more innovative on our trade finance facilities to try and help the movement of goods. So we're having a bit of success that way. But there's certain countries where it's just a no-go, and it is hard to get the information. I've been to some of these guys' head office trying to, and they've got more than we have as a bank, even going to the countries we're not in. In some ways, it's helped us because we've had to be definitely be more innovative on actually getting trade facilities in to get the cash out there to get the goods across the water. So, happy to speak on more details on that afterwards.
Sure. Anybody else want to lob in? Simon, have you got anything to say about this? Hi.
Well, the answer is I don't have any experience of credit insurance at all. As an LPA receiver, I have a lot of experience of dealing with the bridging lending market, and whilst that's very different, they've stepped into the void where banks haven't been lending over the last 5 years, and they have repeat customers, which sounds strange for something which sounds so odd and perhaps unspoken of before. And the reason they have repeat customers is because the bridgers talk to their customers, they help them through the process, and they have this communication process. And I would have thought, and I don't know anything about the credit insurance market, but if the credit insurance market actually had a customer-friendly, focused basis, they'd actually do a lot more business, they'd have repeat business, and it would work for both their suppliers and for their customers.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. If you can open a dialogue and keep that dialogue going and keep showing to the analysts there that you are pushing it in the right direction, you are doing the right things, then that helps. If you haven't got that dialogue, and it's very difficult to get that dialogue, then it doesn't help.
It's about track record, and do small deals, pay it back, sort it out, do another one, and then you get the track record.
Okay, let's have another question then. Norman Paxman. Oh, we have a question from the floor. A microphone is coming.
Thank you. I was just going to ask on that point, and I suppose it links up with the same thing about cash flow for small businesses and stimulation of the economy. Is there a way, legislatively, to look at protecting small businesses in terms of the payment terms that they receive from bigger businesses, and looking to stimulate it in that way, so that smaller businesses are afforded a bit more protection through government? Right.
Have some kind of statutory requirement to pay SMEs within, let's say, 30 days. Who wants to pick up that? How about you, Stephen? You got a view on that? Presumably you'll say yes, please. That would be nice.
And we do, there are prompt payment codes. There are lots of things that have been done out there, but they never quite seem to have the traction, do they? And as soon as times get tight, terms get extended out. So it is, from what I'm hearing, it is probably the single biggest issue that many small business owners face is getting themselves paid on time. It's generally not statutory either, is it? It's a note in the accounts where people have got to assert that they do pay their small suppliers within term. I mean, there's no legal mechanism behind it. No, and even leading companies, very responsible companies like Waitrose and others have been extending their terms a little bit out there. Yeah, they have. They have. Any views from anybody else? No, lots of nodding. Lots of nodding. Yeah, we like the idea. Yes, if you could implement a law that says SMEs must be paid within term, that would be welcomed by all SMEs and be very unwelcome by most big businesses, I suppose. Of course, I'd encourage invoice discounting, but because we end up lending money, and it's the biggest growth sector in banking at the moment. So, is that a sign of the fact that companies are taking longer to pay? It might well be what's replacing the good old-fashioned overdraft, where as a bank we had no control on what we were saying anyone would spend the money on. But it is the biggest growth sector of the banking. We do a lot of reverse. The difficulty then, of course, is if your big customer delays payment beyond, let's say, 90 days, and that then falls off the account, doesn't it?
or 120 days. But I think we are very understanding on that sort of thing because we know who the debtor is at the end of the day anyway.
Sure.
I just think that just puts another layer of cost
Yeah,
on the small
yeah.
business where
I know where you
some
come
sort of
from.
legislative framework will actually reduce the cost.
Yep, most small businesses would rather get paid rather than have to invoice discount.